Okay, so in a previous tutorial, we looked at importing data from an external data source such as a spreadsheet or a text file. You can do the opposite. You can export data to a spreadsheet or text file as well as other file types as well. And that's what we're going to look at now. Now, if you're trying to do just a quick, small little set of data that you're trying to send to someone, okay, if you open up that table, you can actually left click up here. You can just right click and choose copy, or you can just do Control C. So the normal keyboard shortcut for copy, and then you can just paste that right into an Excel spreadsheet. You just open the Excel spreadsheet, click on a single cell. You don't want to click on the upper left spot because Excel has a similar select all, and you don't want to do that. You want to just click on a single, the A1 column, A1 cell, I should say, and paste in. So that's a very simple, non-technical way of doing it. It's also only if you have a really small data set. If you've got a lot of rows, you really don't want to do that. This is if you have a small table, you're just quickly grabbing something and send it to someone who needs it in a spreadsheet. You can do that because the amount of steps it takes to export data, this actually might be quicker. Very non-technical, but it certainly is usable in I won't say in a pinch, but if it's just a quick data grab, that's perfectly legitimate. Now let's look at the more technical ways of doing it. You can right click and you can choose export, and as you can see, Excel, and functionally that's the same thing as going to external data and choosing Excel. So there's multiple ways of doing the same thing. So we're going to right click, we're going to choose export, and we're going to choose Excel. This tells you the file name and the directory. You can browse to change the location if you want. This is the file format. Now, I want to point this out. Export data with formatting and layout. Even though it says that, it's really negligible. Offhand, I think the only thing that it does is it gives a little bit of, it gives like a gray background to the column titles, and it makes the column titles bold. It puts it into a bold font. I think that's it. That's really not much. So even though it may be tempting to get that little bit of formatting, it's not worth it, and I'll tell you why. First of all, you can do better formatting in a few seconds. Second of all, this limits what you can export. In 2010 and 2013, I believe it's something like 64,000. It really limits how many rows you can export. I don't know how often you'll be exporting that much, but it limits it. So by not doing the data formatting, you can actually export a lot more. Also, if you're turning this into, say, actually it shows Excel, so I'm just going to cancel out here. If you're doing export and say you choose text file, this may put formatting that is going to mess it up, because a lot of times the benefit of doing a CSV or a text file is it's called a flat file, is what some people refer to it as, and that is there is no structure. So suddenly you're creating structure that might confuse the import. So even though it gives you the option, this I find is more trouble than it's really worth. Any kind of formatting benefit that you get for when you'd want it, you could easily do yourself in Excel in just a couple minutes. So go back to the other option. So export, Excel, you've got the, we'll just change the name. We'll call this like sample. And then we'll just do OK. And there you go, it's successful. So it's really easy to do an export. Now, there's a couple other benefits. Say you have a query, and we mentioned you might have a very large data set, tens of thousands of rows, okay? If you're doing a very large query, rather than running the query and then trying to export it because it runs it again, and if it's too big to copy and paste, then what you do is while the query is like this, we're not going to do it on this one since this query modifies the table, but you can actually export a query as well. So rather than running the query, like I said, if it's like a really big query, gives you like tens of thousands of rows, and then you want to export it, if you know the data is sound, you can just go ahead and export it to begin with. Now, there is another way to export data, and that is using VB statements, and that is Visual Basic. So we're not going to get into that in this tutorial because I want to have several tutorials really handling Visual Basic. Okay, there's so many things that you can do with it. A lot of it basically makes the ribbon unnecessary, which is important because if you want to give some admin functions to your users, but you don't want them to have the actual ribbon, that's really what you would use some of these VB statements for, is because you can give them admin functions built into like single button clicks and forms. That way you can shut off the ribbon, but they can still have the functionality, a subset of the functions that you've built into your own custom forms. So that's about it for this one. I just wanted to explore the exporting of data, let you know that your data isn't trapped in your database, that you can get it out to whoever needs it. Again, someone might need a subset of what you're running. And that's about it for this one.